Thank you for joining us. This is the AutoGuide Show brought to you by eBay Motors. I am one of your hosts, Mike Schley.
And I'm the other host, Kyle Patrick.
So this week we're going to start by covering some of the reviews and features we did over the past week, see what was in the news. Later we're going to have a special guest from Hyundai USA talking about the new Santa Fe. We have a few reader questions and comments, and then we'll give you a little look of what's ahead. But first, let's get a word from our sponsor. eBay Motors is here for the ride. Your elbow grease, fresh installs, and a whole lot of love transformed 100,000 miles and a body full of rust into a driveway entirely its own. Brake kits, LED headlights, whatever you need, eBay Motors has it. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. So we're going to start with our recap of the last week with probably our biggest story, which was the comparison between a new Subaru Impreza with the 2.5 engine and the Toyota Corolla hatchback. Kyle, you kind of had the lead on this, so if you want to just give us a little recap of what you thought.
Well, so I started the week in the Corolla and then switched over to the Subaru later in the week. And the big shock here is that the Subaru feels like a half size class up, right? Like the Corolla in hatchback form anyway, just feels tiny. It's more of a subcompact than a compact because that rear seat is just very tight. But despite that, I think we talked about this a lot during the week, Mike, that the Corolla is still just charming. It's not the better deal, but I still like it anyway because it's just more fun to drive.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at them side by side. The Corolla is the better looking vehicle. I don't think the Impreza isn't good looking, but it's also not bad looking. It's just kind of there. It is a little more tapered with the new generation, so it has a little more style. But the Corolla reminds me a lot of the old subcompact hatches that were, really good to just drive to work, do some weekend errands. They're somewhat entertaining and charming, but they weren't overly optioned or meant for everyday use. Whereas the Impreza, like you said, it's always kind of been somewhere between a regular hatch and a wagon. It's always had a pretty big back end. And it's sort of a good solution for maybe a couple or a small family because you get the extra space, you have the all-wheel drive, but you're not going to get as good fuel economy and doesn't fit in all the spots the Corolla does. The two-tone, I really like it. But yeah, I went in thinking, the Impreza would be the better all-around, and I think it was. But the Corolla really surprised me on how much fun it is. It's a shame there's no manual anymore for it because I think that would just top it off.
Yeah, it just it really drove home the point that I really wish Toyota had some other trim that sat somewhere between this and the GR Corolla, like basically a Civic Si, but that just doesn't exist now. But yeah, I mean, it was good. And talking about fuel economy, I know the real world figures there was a much bigger gap there than the published figures. So we were doing something like 40% more gas in the Impreza versus the Corolla, and that's a big deal, right? If you're buying a $30,000 car, I imagine gas matters more than if you're buying, a $50,000 or $60,000 vehicle.
Yeah, and to your point on the Corolla, like you're wishing there was something in between. That's the big thing with the Impreza that I like is there was such a gap between Impreza and then WRX. So it was like 152 horsepower and 271. And for years, I've been saying like they need something between. It doesn't have to be a sport model. And I know they're positioning the RS sort of as that, but it's that in between that just has enough power for the car. Like it suits it better. It's not fast, but it's not slow. It works well. But like you said, it needs a lot of gas.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so moving on. Next, we had one of our freelancers, Lee Bailey, go down to Michigan, and he got to see the new Equinox. He got a hands-on preview. So no real big surprise here. It's still using a lot of the same mechanics as before, like the 1.5 turbo. Inside, it does have a lot of the updates that a lot of the Chevys are getting. So it is nicer inside. I would like to drive one because the old model, I remember we compared, and it wasn't terrible, but it just kind of felt like, I wouldn't say a rental car, but it felt like just the transportation someone gets because they need it, but they don't really care what they're getting. This one, the style's a little more there. I mean, it has that same squinty headlight thing that everyone's doing. And it's the inside looks nicer. So
Yeah, I would say it felt like a rental car. But
Yeah.
I mean, and it's a little disappointing to me that they're sticking with just the 1.5, but it looks good. It looks like the Traverse just shrunken down. And GM has, I will say, they have a really good habit of putting a lot of tech and a lot of very user-friendly tech into vehicles from pretty low trims onward. So I'm excited about this being a little more competitive in this segment, but I just wish there were a few more options to really compete against the segment leaders.
Yeah, I remember driving it and then driving the Terrain shortly after, which has the optional 2 liter, and thinking, the Equinox could use this for the higher trims, but you'll have the Terrain, which is positioned as a higher vehicle, and you have Chevy's own Blazer, which is slightly larger. So I get they don't want to maybe tread on other places, but yeah, I think it could use the upgrade.
Mhm.
All right, so this moving on, this is an article you wrote. So we have confirmation that Acura is going to make a smaller than RDX. The obvious answer would be the HRV platform, but maybe not with the HRV drivetrain.
Yeah, hopefully not. And hopefully it does not look like my 5-minute Photoshop job there, which is an MDX nose grafted onto an HRV. Yeah, we
Hey,
agree, though, that it
someone
seems.
someone said they liked it. So they said, "Hey, that actually looks like a good rendering." So maybe you
Oh,
have a feature as a designer.
oh, geez. Yeah. Huh. Well, I didn't even match the paint. Uh, yeah, HRV makes the most sense because it already exists. I really doubt they'd take one of the other small crossovers from other markets to do it. My guess would be the Civic's engine, the Turbo 1.5. That would make
Yeah,
sense.
that'd be my guess. Yeah, like with the question would be would they use the CVT still, or would they get an actual transmission for it because it being premium, and I'd assume it would be at least the sport, if not tuned to the SI, like around 200 horsepower. I think you kind of need that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not entirely sure where they'd go on that because CVTs in luxury cars is a dicey move. But I mean, the 10 speed is gone from Honda's lineup now, or in
Yeah,
the cars. I guess it's
yeah,
still available in SUVs. Maybe
but
it would
I
just
don't
be a
think.
detuned RDX engine. Who knows?
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think there's any 1.5s that are paired to anything but a CVT. So you're right.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just a 2 liter with less power.
Or Acura will just give us a manual. It'll be an Integra, but a crossover. Come on.
It's like an Integra SUV type S.
Yeah, at least 3 people will buy that.
And now on to my favorite news of the week. So I got to write up my favorite car, I think, currently on sale. I know we talked last time where people said, what's the best car? This is the closest I can do. Answer to that, the CT5V Blackwing, because you get power, noise, manual, yet luxury, space for a family. Like it's just, and it's still somewhat subtle. People see it, they're like, oh, like it looks purposeful, but it's not over the top. So the good news is for 25, like the CT5 refresh, it is coming back. And the better news is nothing mechanically is changing. So the CT5V still gets the Turbo 6, and the Blackwing still gets the supercharged V8, along with a choice of manual or automatic. I like the refresh. It's minimal, but it makes it look a little more aggressive front and
Mhm.
rear. And then inside, the big change is it's got that new super dash that every Cadillac's getting at 33 inches, which is really kind of 2 screens put together. But yeah, it's a good update, and I'm happy that Cadillac A is still seeing a future for sedans, and B still giving us these options because when this model gets overhauled to the next gen, these parts aren't probably still going to be there. I mean, the Camaro's dead. This is the only place this engine is anymore because the Corvette doesn't use it anymore. So
And the Escalade V, right?
yeah, well, I think Cadillac's just trying to rationalize places to put it. Like maybe they'll start
Yeah,
stuffing it into, I don't know,
yeah,
XT4V. That'd be
yeah.
awesome.
There's a gorgeous new color for this one too. That dark green that
Oh
looks
yeah, 3 new
great.
colors. Yeah,
Yeah. And you were saying like the take rate for the manuals is incredibly high already for the existing car.
yeah. The Blackwing, I mean, the only one that has the manual, it's over 50%, which is great. I mean, obviously they're selling a handful. It's a specialty car, but the people who are going for it are sort of people like me, but with money, that are looking for basically a Camaro ZL1, but in like an adult, I'm over 40 and I have a family package, and it's perfect because that's exactly what it feels like. It sounds and feels like a Camaro or Corvette when you really hustle it, but then you put it all in comfort mode and your family can just cruise perfect comfort. Yeah, it's such a great car. And I mean, it's a lot of money, but for what you get, it's quite a bargain if you compare it to some of the German competitors that are making similar power, like
Yeah.
an M5 or something like that.
Yeah, an M5 is thousands more. Like this is slightly more than an M3 or M4, and you're getting all of this. And with this update, you're now getting a lot better tech, because the old tech was fine in the old one, but it was shared with an Equinox, right? So this one feels a little more premium and justifies its price. So yeah, excellent news.
And making a completely uninformed comment, with that engine transmission combo, because it was shared with other American cars and they sold in better numbers. I mean, I would think if you need to do a fix down the road, it wouldn't be as hard as trying to find some part for like an M5 engine. Okay, slightly shifting gears, but I mean, we're still talking about what happened last week. We're going to cover the top news stories. So the first one was something we received from our patent sleuth, who's always finding these neat little stories, that in Europe, Toyota has trademarked the GR-GT name using this exact logo with no other details. So it leads us to speculate what it could be. I mean, it could be anything as mundane as a tie-in with Gran Turismo, and they already have GR cups there, so maybe they want to make an official branding for a cup down the road or something tied into a race series. What else could it be?
I mean, I don't want to say that's mundane. As avid sim racers, we really look forward to that. But it could be, it could be Toyota reviving that super sports concept idea that they showed way back in 2018, which was supposed to be kind of a Halo model flagship for GR. Rumors were that project was put on hold a few years ago, but who knows? I mean, GR is doing really well. I think with Supra and Corolla and 86, it's a strong brand with enthusiasts, so maybe they've rethought that and it's worth putting out some really high-end hypercar.
Yeah, or even, I mean, it could even just be a concept, and you were getting a car. Other things is it could be tied into the Super GT series, the GT500, GT300. It could be tied into their hypercar that does the WEC in Le Mans. I mean, I don't think they'd rename those, but could even be like maybe they're renaming the 86. They're going to call it GR-GT. Who knows? We have no idea, but hopefully we find out soon because it sounds cool.
Yeah.
And then another performance manufacturer, we have Porsche has given us more details on the Macan EV. Yeah, I'm still torn. I need to drive it before I make a decision, I think, on this.
Yeah, because I don't think you've driven a Taycan, have you?
Taycan, no.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, I really enjoy the Taycan in every form that I've driven it. And I know this is a different platform, but I trust Porsche to make an exciting EV because they've already done it. It looks a little strange to me, but I'm sure I'll warm up to it. I'm happy they have colors similar to this. And it's going to be really powerful. So that's fun, I guess.
Yeah, I'm surprised they're calling it a Macan since it isn't really a Macan, but I mean, Chevy's doing the same thing with all their EV versions of the regular cars. So I guess the name recognition is important. If you brought out a whole new name, people might not know, but you're trying to say this is our smaller SUV, but now with crazy amounts of electric torque.
And it makes sense that back with the last facelift for Macan, they removed the turbo from the lineup and they were just waiting because now a Macan turbo exists again. And I'm sure, just like the Taycan, it'll annoy people because, well, there aren't turbos in there. So.
And it has the dust every Macan ever made before it off the line down all the way probably past 100 miles an hour. We'll stick with our theme of performance cars, fourth straight story, but the Miata got a significant update, and it's pretty much all good news. I mean, the fact this car still exists is good news, but
yes,
they're giving you more performance bits for the performance models, and the luxurious models are getting more luxurious bits. So it's kind of giving both buyer segment more of what they want.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like the Jeep Wrangler before the Bronco launched, where it has a market more or less to itself. I mean, we've done comparisons with it and Toyobaru twins, but those are still a different idea because this is a dedicated two-door drop top. I mean, you can get the RF, but really the drop top is pure Miata. And yeah, I mean, an updated screen is something that it needed, and I have no qualms with that. Also, I just want to point out again that the Miata is now the most affordable convertible you can buy new on the market.
Yeah, and the new differential sounds great. I mean, like I said, it's not the same as the BRZ and the GR. Those cars are bought by enthusiasts. I mean, they're a blast to drive, and I love them. But they can also be bought by someone who just wants sort of a small coupe and an automatic and a base model. Whereas if you're getting a MX-5, you want a sports car because it's a very compromised vehicle. Like it's your second car, unless you're like maybe single or a couple that doesn't ever need to take anything anywhere. But like I can go to the grocery store and you can do errands with it, but you're always limited to, okay, how much can I buy? What can I fit? So
yeah.
All right, and Ford and Lincoln decided they are just going to crush everybody with dash size, screen size. They are introducing a 40-inch digital dash. Now, it's not quite what it sounds like. It's not like you're getting a 48-inch big screen TV shoved in your car. It's very narrow and rectangular, but it's basically the whole length of the dash from one end to the other is going to be a screen. Kind of like, remember the Integra way back, early 90s had the lights across the whole dash.
Yeah,
like you have in the car and you get lights all over there.
I was like that, I guess. I was thinking about that, or the a few generations ago, the Civic, how it had the 2-tier dashboard design. It was sort of previous or prior to head-up displays becoming popular.
Yeah, off topic, but that got so much hate. I never got it. Like it was almost like having head-up display, but not. People like, oh, 2 screens, I can't see the difference. It's like, no, the wheel splits them and it's different info. That
it's
now
like
everyone wants
Prius.
like. Yeah, and everyone wants like 8 screens and head-up displays. Like maybe it's just ahead of its time. But
no, and yet like the new Prius is great for that because it has one screen super far off on the dashboard, and so you see it above the wheel. It's great. This looks, at least from this this image, this looks good. It's splitting the difference between a head-up display and your regular display.
All right, well, moving on. We're getting low on time, so just quickly, the GTI, we talked about that previously. We're just going to talk to you and have meaningful conversations, but Volkswagen officially put it out. Good news, it still looks good. It always has. And it gets more power, which it didn't need, but a welcome addition. But we've lost the manual.
Does it actually have more power, or are they just being more honest with how much power that thing had? Because when we drove the GTI the last time, it felt way quicker than its quoted figures.
Yeah, I think a drive like a back-to-back drive, but to me, I mean, if you look at the numbers, it's kind of close to the Atlas, so I'm wondering if they just retuned the engine, or like you said, are giving the more real numbers. But I bet it's more powerful. We'll see.
Yeah.
And our final story: Jeep put on bigger tires to the Wrangler because clearly that's what it needed. I know people go aftermarket all the time, so I guess they're trying to cash in some money. But you can now get 35-inch tires on the Wrangler. I mean, at this point, just put on portals and go full monster truck. You know, like just buy a version you can't drive on the street, but you can go like run over people in Moab or something.
Yeah.
You know who the people are going to buy the factory 35s? Very few will probably off-road, because the people who buy a new Wrangler to hardcore off-road, they're tearing it apart building, a rock crawler. So, yeah. I mean, I get why they're doing it. It's just going to print money, but it's just kind of funny.
Yep.
All right, so we're going to now have another word from our sponsor, and when we come back, we will have Mike Evanoff from Hyundai USA to talk about the new boxy Santa Fe. eBay Motors is here for the ride. Do you remember your first car? I sure do. I was fresh out of university and I wanted nothing more than a car. So I went to some dealers with 2 things in mind. I wanted a 2-door coupe and I wanted a manual transmission. After looking around, I finally ended up with a 2003 Oldsmobile Alero coupe with a 5-speed manual and a 4-cylinder engine. A lot of people didn't understand why I bought that car, but I loved it. I would take it everywhere. I also wanted to modify it. I put a lot of parts on that didn't work. I put on some wheels and they ended up ripping apart my rear brakes and I had to get rid of them. My intake, my exhaust, my suspension, and some interior bits were all custom made. It would have helped so much if there was some sort of way that I could get guaranteed parts for my car back then. Another thing I loved to do with the car was I would take it drag racing. I would do low 15 seconds and thought I was so fast, which I wasn't. But you know what? I was having a blast and I was getting to run the car harder than I was allowed to on the street. I also went to a lot of charity car shows, road trips, and weeks up at the cottage. I had the car for almost 2 years until one day it was written off in a snowstorm in Detroit by a mail truck. It was a sad day, and I really miss that car. One day, maybe I'll get another Alero, but for now, I'll just have good memories of this car and how much fun I had with it. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, roof rack, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. All right, now we're going to welcome our special guest. Normally, it would be Kyle and I doing this, but Kyle's off on assignment right now, so it'll just be me. Joining us today is Mike Evanoff. He's the product planning Hyundai Motor North America.
Hey, good morning. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for joining.
Yep.
So we're going to talk obviously about the Santa Fe because that's sort of the big buzz right now. So just a couple questions on it, and hopefully you can give us some insight. The first one obviously is it's very different looking than the previous models. It's got a very square shape, which seems to be quite a trend right now. Was that always the plan with the new model, or is that more of something you decided later on?
Yeah, no, I think, the designers, when they first started working on this generation of Santa Fe, they were thinking to maximize cargo space, interior, capabilities. The vehicle was really from the onset designed from the inside out. And so in order to maximize, cargo capacity and everything else, you just push those corners to the outer edges. And that kind of drives that overall upright, boxy shape. But, it also defines it as an SUV. SUV popularity has been growing over the past 10 years, even more so. And, we felt, a lot of this, some of the SUVs, we wanted to stand out and be unique. And I think by this bold, all the surfacing details and how the bold front and side profile really will help Santa Fe stand out from the crowd, when it hits dealers very soon.
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of sort of the form over function. I've always been an advocate of larger greenhouses and the square because, like you said, you can fit better objects and see out better.
Visibility, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and the rear end, I really like that rear end. Like it's going to stand out. Nothing looks like that for sure.
Yeah.
Which kind of leads to the next question. Do you have any insight if current Santa Fe owners are going to adopt the new look or like it?
Yeah, obviously, we did a lot of research, as we do with all our vehicles. In our research for this generation of Santa Fe, we invited intenders for the segment and owners of not only the current Santa Fe, but other SUVs in the competitive set and in the field. And the Santa Fe it scored very well overall, but I will say that specifically the current Santa Fe owners actually scored it a little bit higher than the global, than the whole all the respondents. So you could be a little nervous and thinking, wow, it's a big departure from what you're used to. But based on our data and what we saw, the current Santa Fe owners are very open to it and welcome the changes and the updates.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I think even with current owners that don't know about it, it's going to be a little sort of discovery when it first gets on the road as to what is that. I mean, I remember getting that with the previous Santa Fe when it first came out. Friends that aren't into the auto industry would be like, "What's that?" I said, that's what the Santa Fe looks like now. So yeah, I get it. So your strategy with the engines is different than in Canada. So obviously, there's a reason for each region doing it. So why do you have the turbo as the entry and then the hybrid as the higher end?
Well, the turbo as the entry is, the last generation or the prior generation Santa Fe, had a total of 4 actual powertrains, but we started with the normally aspirated 2.5, and then the upgrade to that was the 2.5 turbo. Now, given that Santa Fe is now standard 3-row, it has grown in size. It's about 2 inches longer in overall length, 2 inches in wheelbase. Even overall height is up about 2.5 inches. So with the larger, footprint, to not only house and make a comfortable third row, with all of that comes mass, and there's also, additional safety regulations you have to comply with. So all that, kind of does factor into the overall mass of the vehicle. So we felt from a customer expectation standpoint, the 2.5 turbo, made the most sense for the entry engine or the standard engine, 277 horsepower, over 300 pound-feet of torque, motivates the car, the vehicle very well. And then for those who wanted, the more efficient option or the hybrid, we make that available. The not as many trims. The gas model is available in 5 trims. The hybrid is available in 3 trims. But the content for those trims, SEL, limited, calligraphy, pretty much mirror each other 1-to-1. It's just basically just a powertrain option. The horsepower is still very high. The combined horsepower for the 1.6 turbo hybrid is like 231 horsepower, 270 pound-feet of torque. So it motivates the vehicle very well, but is also more fuel efficient than the full gas. So we wanted to kind of keep the core with the gasoline engine, offer the hybrid, and as you see down the line, that ratio of the hybrid to gas will probably get closer to 50-50, and who knows where it goes from there. But I think you'll see a transition in all vehicles, quite frankly, where the hybrid becoming more and more of a factor in the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, they're getting more powerful, more seamless. It's a lot different than they were even 5-10 years ago. I've noticed that with a lot of recent products I've driven.
Yeah.
You brought up the longer wheelbase in the third row, so that kind of leads to another question I have is, the Palisade's been very successful for you. So was that the reason to put a third row in this vehicle? And are you worried about any sort of cross-shopping between the two?
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to keep the two definitely, separate. I mean, they will sit near each other on the showroom floor. So obviously there will be some natural interaction between the two. But, the decision to make the third row standard was more for just, for the segment and for customer appeal. I've been living with the new Santa Fe now for a week or so. And, having that third row is great flexibility, but you can store it flat. And, the cargo capacity behind the second row is totally unaffected. So you've got a really usable third row when, needed, or you got more cargo, if necessary by storing the seats. So I think it's the best of both worlds. We get, and it opens it up to a wider audience for consideration just by the fact that you have that third row. And, we make it standard also, to kind of reduce the complexity in the lineup. So you don't have some vehicles here with and without, second, third row, and it always gives somebody, looking for, they know exactly what they can find and what they expect to find at the dealership lot. So we really try and streamline that to make it as easy as possible. So I think it was really independent of Palisade. Palisade has been fantastic, wonderfully successul. We just kind of want to build on that with this generation, and still attract, cast an even wider net for consumers in the marketplace.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's good to know. I sat in it at the LA Auto Show when it was unveiled, and the third row is surprisingly big for the size of the vehicle, because a lot in that class is sort of feels like the third row is an afterthought. Maybe you'll throw some younger children back there if you need to, but I mean, it's not somewhere you're going to put adults long term, but it can fit them. Whereas even some of the larger ones, you can't. So and I guess that's because of the square shape.
Yeah, because of that shape, and then we don't make it a penalty box back there. There are available controls for the HVAC on the third row, so you can adjust your fan speed independently back there. You've also got USB-C inputs on both sides on the third row. So we just not only is it a third row, but it's a usable from a space standpoint, but also from a feature comfort standpoint. It's not just forgotten about. We actually spent a lot, like I said, it was designed from the inside out and from the back forward kind of mentality. So that really kind of follows right in line with that strategy and that thinking in the development of Santa Fe.
So right from the start, since you're talking about sort of the initial idea, was there always going to be the rugged trim like the XRT with the vehicle? And is it going to expand more? Like, do you think you'll go further with it, or the aftermarket will go further with it?
Yeah, I mean, we've shown some concepts. You were at LA as I was as well. We showed an XRT concept at that event. We've shown another XRT concept before. I mean, XRT launched a couple years ago for us on the SUV line, and we've been kind of slowly progressing with XRT. I'm happy to say that this 24 model year Santa Fe XRT is the first XRT in the lineup to actually get some more functional upgrades, which I think are really important, especially if you're targeting more of that off-road competitive set, or that buyer, like all-terrain tires, huge difference that can be made. So we've got 30-inch all-terrain tires on the XRT. Also ride height, it's got increased ground clearance over the base model, so you just got a little about 1 to 1.3 inches of more ground clearance. So that also helps with any off-road or weekend adventures. And then even towing capacity. The standard towing capacity for the 2.5 turbo is 3,500 pounds. But when equipped on the XRT, there's additional cooling and other accommodations. Even the front fascia is a little bit different to allow for more cooling. So you get about 1,000 pounds more, so up to 4,500 pounds on the XRT. So we definitely wanted to put some teeth, into the XRT package. And I definitely hope, moving forward, can't talk directly about, future plans, but I definitely like to see it in that direction, as we've done from one generation to the next. There's always room for even more down the road.
Yeah, I think some people get confused a bit when they see things like that. They think it's going to go do hardcore off-roading, and that's not its purpose. It's not going to go rock crawling with Wranglers. But overlanding's so big. I think the three main things that I'm seeing sort of in the industry, and you covered them all, is the all-terrain tires, a little more ground clearance, and be able to tow like an off-road travel trailer. That's what people are looking for. So I think you got a good start there, and I like that handle to be able to
the hidden C-pillar, because aerodynamics are really important on the vehicle. I think it's fantastic. I mean, they achieved a drag coefficient of 0.29, which is actually very, very aerodynamic. And you look at the profile, and it is more upright and a little bit more boxy. It's actually very close in aerodynamic efficiency to our Ioniq 5, our electric vehicle, which is a 0.28. So it's actually, and it's about 11% decrease from the prior generation. So I think, they did a lot of time and effort. They've learned a lot working on the EVs on the Ioniq lineup, and that translates directly over into the gas models. But, really excited about the XRT, especially I had the opportunity to take it to Joshua Tree the other weekend and was doing this 18-mile off-road loop. Never made contact once, was very comfortable with it. And I think, it's not intended to be a rock crawler, but for, I think, majority of what off-roading people will do, it's really well suited to the job.
That sounds great. Well, I wish you luck with it, and I can't wait to test one out down the road. I thank you for joining us. It's given us a lot of good insight. And yeah, we hope to talk to you again soon.
All right. Thank you very much. Take care.
All right. Thanks. All right. Well, that was great. Gave us a lot of good insight and maybe a few tidbits you didn't know before. Definitely tidbits I didn't know. So that's nice. We're going to move on to questions. And hey, we actually have some comments and questions from viewers and listeners. And then we're going to briefly discuss another topic that I wanted to bring up. So first, I want to thank Ethan Barella, I think it is. He was the first person to compliment us on the podcast. So thank you very much. And then we had another commenter, Lana36S, was talking about the ZDX, which we had on last week, that they're excited that Acura finally has one, but they're kind of pondering how long will it last being a GM shared component before Honda makes their own component to make their vehicles on. And they think like maybe 3 years. I think it would run a full life cycle, probably 5 years, including a refresh, maybe even 6. But I agree, I'll probably leave that partnership and go to a different platform. But I don't think the name will die. I think Acura plans to keep this name around. I mean, it will be a completely different vehicle maybe next gen, but I think it'll stay around.
Yeah, that would make sense. I mean, if they've put all this money into this partnership with GM, I know they have their own platform in the works, but you might as well get an entire generation out of it.
Yeah, like it's your stopgap. And I think from both sides, because GM will update it for themselves down the road, and Honda will go to their own. And other manufacturers have claimed that, like why Subaru's been using Toyota hybrid. They've always said they're going to do their own down the road. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But I think the name will stick around, but maybe not the model as we know it after, let's say, 5 years.
Yeah.
So moving on to a quick question that I had. I was updating one of our top 10 lists that I wrote 8 years ago. And it was the top 10 cars that we wish manufacturers would bring back. And not that they were listening to me. Of the 10 I put down, 3 have come back since that. I had Integra, I had Supra, and I had a proper compact pickup. So we've got the Supra and the Integra back, and we have the Maverick and, to a degree, the Santa Cruz. So, hey, There we go. So anyway, what I wanted to ask is, I updated this with more. Kyle, on the spot, give me your two vehicle, either actual models or class that you want to see.
Ooh, I mean, I want to see subcompact cars come back because they've all pretty much died in the last few years. But Toyota, you've been on a run. You've done a lot of really great stuff for enthusiasts. Give us an MR2. I know you teased one in Tokyo last year. So yeah, that's what I want. I want a new MR2.
It's fine. Both those are on the list. Proper subcompacts like Fiesta and Mazda 2, like they're all gone. And they weren't like sports cars, but they were fun and they were practical and they were good on gas. And to the MR2, like they already have it. Even the GR Corolla and Yaris with that turbo 3-cylinder that's already, pointing the right way, driving the wheels. Just take that whole front end, put it in the back, and make a little coupe body and some front wheels.
Yeah.
Like that would be a fantastic combo, the way that engine rips. So
I like that.
Yeah, for me, I mean, MR2 is an obvious choice. I can't even remember what I put down there, but the one that still sticks out because it was teased so many years ago and they didn't go through it was Buick. They need a Halo coupe, or now I guess with the SUV, maybe even a performance SUV. But when they teased the, I can't remember what it was called, but it was like a Wildcat. Maybe it was called a Wildcat.
It was a few years ago.
Yeah, and it looked like this could be a perfect Grand National, sell it in small batch number, and they didn't go through with it. I just think they could do a lot for the brand internationally, because I know it's not just US, but there's other places that you had, maybe make take a CT5 V, and you only did the black one, that'd be cool. But, strip it out of some content, make it more affordable, and maybe pump up the boost a bit, and 400 horsepower Buick something.
Yeah. It'll never happen.
Right.
But we wish.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hey, 3 of my wishes made. So
yeah.
All right, so to finish this up, we're just gonna kind of cover what's next for us. So Kyle, you are off on a trip this week, so next week that'll be covered in detail. So that's great. I have spent the week driving a Mercedes GLS, which is interesting because it's this giant luxury SUV. But in the last month, I've also driven the BMW X7 and the Grand Wagoneer Series 3. So I oddly have a lot of direct comparison to make, and I'll get into it in depth with my review. But it's interesting because all three are very different, as much as you think they're the same. So yeah, this one's sort of the middle ground between the other two, and yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I can't complain. I'm driving something that has massaged, heated, ventilated seats in the second row. It's got heated seats in the third row, power everything. It's ridiculous. I mean, I get why people buy it, but I also get why you don't need it.
Yeah. On the subject of not necessarily needing but wanting, I'm spending time with the Jaguar F-Type, the R75. 75R. It's the final model year. It's the top performance model. It's the convertible. And yeah, we've driven the convertible 2 years ago in a comparison, and it was the lower power one. And I think having the car solo allows me to appreciate a lot of its charm. I haven't spent a whole lot of time with it because you said I was on a trip, but I'm so far I'm liking it. I think it'll be sad to see it go. And on a subject maybe down the road, I really wonder what the point of Jaguar is after this car is gone, because I struggle.
Yeah, because right now it's just F pace, I pace, right? So I think the XF's still kicking around in that one trim.
And I think maybe the E-Pace is around. I don't know. I see one maybe every month or so.
It's too bad you were on your trip though, because our first proper snowfall happened on the day you were gone, so you didn't get to go, test it out in the snow, which would be a lot of fun with 4 winter tires and all-wheel drive. But
yeah.
All right, so next week we have something fun. We have we have a important comparison where we have Lexus's new TX going head-to-head against Infinity's QX60 and Acura's MDX. So this is sort of the three-row premium family haulers. I mean, I don't want to disparage them and call them like luxury minivans, but these are sort of for more people who are looking for something that is luxurious, can take the family, but should also be pretty easy to live with and mechanically and everything. Like, you're not getting as sophisticated as some of these really high-end vehicles. So yeah, I'm interested to see how the three will stack up. We'll be doing that later next week. You're on another trip. So
I am. Yes, I'll be driving a very different vehicle from all those. I will be driving the refreshed Genesis G70.
Kyle kind of jealous of that. But I mean, I got enough to do, and we have a couple debuts we can't talk about coming up next week. So yeah, pay attention, and we'll be covering it all in next week's episode of the AutoGuide Show, brought to you by eBay Motors. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
See you, everyone.
Thank you once again for listening and watching the AutoGuide Show, brought to you by eBay Motors. eBay Motors is here for the ride. Your elbow grease, fresh installs, and a whole lot of love transformed 100,000 miles and a body full of rust into a driveway entirely its own. Brake kits, LED headlights, whatever you need, eBay Motors has it. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply.